All right, Mark. In today's episode, we're talking about how TikTok's algorithm keeps pushing suicide to vulnerable kids, why you should never be horny on Maine, why Gen Z is ditching their smartphones, and how to prioritize focus in a distracted world. In addition to that, we're also going to be talking about how to practically dive into the topic of sexual transmutation so you can apply it in your life.
That sounds pretty sweet, man.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Man vs. World. I am your host, Mark Weppett, and we are joined by Pete. Pete, how are you, man? What's going on in your world?
I'm awesome. What's going on in my world is I forgot to do laundry this week, so it's black shirt today. But that's pretty much it. So
all your white shirts just covered in mustard?
Yeah, they're mustard magnets, man. I tell you. That's pretty much it. What about you?
I broke like the keyboard I had for that I've been using for years. It was like a really like a nice Logitech one. Well, nice, it was like a gaming keyboard that I really like because it had all these macro functions and stuff on it, and it broke. And I tried to fix it and I just broke it more, so I ordered a new one. But I went down the rabbit hole of like mechanical keyboards. Have you ever like looked at those?
Oh, that's super trendy.
It's like, oh, dude, it's apparently it's the thing.
Yep.
I could. Like the subreddit's got like millions of people on it. The videos have hundreds of thousands of views. I was like, oh shit. And so I'm now rocking a new mechanical keyboard because I was like, screw it. I don't need something fancy. I'll just get by with a $12 one from Walmart. And man, that thing, I didn't want to touch that thing all day. That's for sure. So, yeah. It's so easy today because like the world is so weird. Like there's so many niche hobbies that like it's kind of like you just like lift up this little stone and all of a sudden you see like this strange world underneath of like people who are way too into something. Arguably, people could put me in that category when it comes to like self-development or quitting porn or that sort of thing. And so all power to people having their interests and passions. All right, that's great. But man, sometimes you get a little bit more than you bargained for, and then you're like, oh, well, should I do this thing or should I go for that thing? Do I need this? And then they just sell you on it because they're all so passionate about whatever it is that they're doing. But yeah, I can relate.
That definitely happens.
It's like with anything. It's like cars, like pens. Like I remember that's when I like was trying to look up a good journal. I like went down the rabbit hole of that, and I ended up with like, this fine Japanese paper that lets me write really small with my super fancy, fountain pen, that I've got. And it's just like
I think I have a cooler one than you.
I like, do you?
Yeah, it's Epica.
What is that one?
It's massive.
Epica?
It's leather.
Well, I have this one as well.
Oh, okay.
Which is
there you
very
go.
Large. Okay. I actually have two journals, Pete. Like, so, because I'm the journal king.
I probably should not.
I'm not sure if you knew that.
This was probably a bad idea. Comparing journals with Mark is probably not going to win that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a distraction. Like I've done this with so many things before. It's like you got to know where it's appropriate to go hard down a rabbit hole and where you want to absolutely like not do it and it's not worth the time, energy, or effort. In my opinion, if it's something that you use like all the time, go ahead and engage with it. Have some passion around the craft. Like I literally am touching like my keyboard more than I'm touching my wife. And it's like, so it makes sense to have one that like you enjoy, at least in my opinion. But it's like it's when people do it for the superfluous things. That's where I haven't been able to get around, my head around it. But, everyone needs a hobby. Some people don't play video games. Some people don't, go out and hang out with friends. And so they need to like pimp their car out with like crazy lifts and wild doohickeys. Like I had a friend in college who he had this horribly shitty truck that he like lifted it, which made it even more shitty and dangerous. Then he like it was it was hilarious. So it's just people got their passions. And what's cool is that if you find like an area of that and you've got that vibe for it, you really like that thing, there's business opportunities there. People, those keyboard people are making some money, I can guarantee you. You know, if they knew what they were doing, they could make a shitload of money.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, there's a world of potential there in exploring niche interests. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this.
Yeah, let's do it. So this Bloomberg article is one I came across recently, and the title of it is "TikTok's Algorithm Keeps Pushing Suicide to Vulnerable Kids." The subtitle reads,
That's a bad headline.
Yeah.
You don't want a headline like that written about your business.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
Apparently what happened is this 16-year-old kid committed suicide, and his parents or somebody went on his TikTok account, and it's still active to this day. And if you scroll through his For You feed, because there's that, you know, the people you follow and then the algorithm stuff. And if you go through what the algorithm is pushing to that account, you see an endless stream of clips about unrequited love, hopelessness, pain, and what many posts glorify as the ultimate escape, being suicide. And so one post said, "Take the pain away. Death is a gift." Another video pushed to the account said, "I'm going to put a shotgun in my mouth and blow my brains out," is the male voice. And then the female voice responds, "Cool." And so just one of these posts after another, if you swipe through his feed, that's what you get. So is this TikTok's fault? What do we need to do about this?
Oh God, like that specific instance, that shit's demonic. You know, that's fucked up. Like anyone who's like glorifying that kind of thing. And I think there needs to be a separation here between the people who like fuck around with that kind of stuff for attention, because you can definitely get attention. You know, like if you go down that edgy route, you know, I've known multiple people who have said, "Oh, I'm going to kill myself," and that sort of thing. And it was primarily from a place of just, you know, wanting attention. And it's messed up. But there are also people out there who are taking it seriously. So obviously, you know, if they start getting fed that sort of messaging, it could potentially lead to horrendous tragedy like this. You know, like that's, you know, if that was my kid, oh my God. But I think the bigger issue here is that issue about the algorithm, right? Because the way our brain works is like, especially for someone who's like not super high in their own self-awareness and have a high degree of self-control and a high degree of internal agency over their own personal narrative. If you're not that kind of person, you know, you're someone who's just, you know, kind of standard everyday Joe Schmo, your mindset is tremendously shaped by the feedback loop of conversation you have. And I would say even if you are a very aware person, you're still going to get, you know, massively influenced by your feedback loop with the world. And the thing is, today, most of our feedback loops heavily feature technology. And so if that technology is giving you a toxic feedback loop, like literally like a feedback loop that is toxic to your health, your mental health, your physical health, etc., well, then you're going to end up fucked if you keep engaging in it. And so, you know, TikTok, it's just designed to be a views monster. And, well, maybe not just designed. You know, there's arguably some other nefarious purposes behind TikTok, but let's not go down that rabbit hole right now. But, you know, let's say that there is no, you know, secret Chinese agenda to brainwash us and gather all our information and make us dumber. Okay, let's say that's not going on. TikTok for sure, then, at the very least, is simply trying to maximize clicks. It's trying to maximize time spent on the app. And so the way it works is whatever you click on, you know, more than once, and it monitors literally how long you watch it, how quick you click away, like all that kind of stuff. And it is able to tell, hey, this stuff has some kind of resonance with this guy. And so it'll just then feed you more because it wants you to spend more time on the app so that they can make ultimately more money and gather more of your data. And so the problem is if like you are becoming fascinated by something that doesn't really serve you, because the algorithm doesn't give a shit about you, doesn't give a shit about like, you know, how well is the content that it's providing you serving you, okay? It just cares how much are you engaging with it. And so this guy, sadly, it sounds like he got into a really bad feedback loop with his TikTok stuff. Now, can we blame it all on TikTok? Probably not. There's, I'm sure this kid had some other issues going on, and I don't want to place blame on anyone else because who knows what kind of situation he was in, how his parents were interacting with, that sort of thing, and maybe you could probably delve deeper into the article to find out more details. But on the surface level, if he's watching that kind of stuff, do you think that's going to? You tell me, Pete. Do you think that's going to move his mental health into a better or a worse direction?
Obviously, it's going to make it a lot worse.
Obviously, right? Like, obviously. And this is the way it works with everything, though, today. We were just talking about how you can, like, fall down into, like, these little niche rabbit holes. And it's the same kind of thing where if it gets your dopamine pumping or it creates some kind of emotional release, then you can get hooked to it. And our AI, essentially, our AIs, our algorithms, and increasingly more, it's going to become, even more heavily AI driven. It's probably going to be this. Eventually, we're going to have this integrated AI network that is constantly monitoring what you click on, and it's going to be feeding you stuff based on that. It's going to know what all your weaknesses are, what your vices are, what turns you on, what makes you pissed off, and it's just going to be like this little master manipulator in the shadows, just like sending you little pings, the next little feed, the next suggested piece of content, etc. And there's no like moral governing agency behind that, right? It's just something that's trying to use you. And we have to maintain consciousness around how we interact with our technology. Because if not, then these algorithms, they will end up subtly controlling you. I know for example, a lot of guys that I've worked with, like the Instagram Explore tab. All right. You first make an Instagram profile. It's all kinds of stuff in there. Eventually there's going to be a hot woman in there. And if you click on her, guess what? It's going to populate that page with a few more hot women and then a few more. And then before you know it, your Explore page is all hot women. And it's going to be then very triggering to you. And like, this is where, a lot of guys, they start getting lost and they start escalating into other things, but it can go even beyond that. It can go into just like whatever your escapist thing is, whatever you like to click on in a state of low consciousness. For me, my Instagram page or my Instagram Explore page has mostly become like MMA memes, because I guess like when I'm bored and I'm just like scrolling through something, it's like, oh, I like following UFC and stuff like that, and it just gives me more and more of it, and I can just sit there and scroll and look at it, and it's like you're just zombie scrolling, right? And that's why I've pretty much tried to completely avoid automatically curated algorithms. Like, I don't like that shit. I try to avoid ever touching that Explore tab anymore, because I can see it's just designed to put you in the zombified state of like click, click, click. YouTube does the same damn thing. All of them do. Twitter does now. That's like its whole first tab. I'd rather just follow like very specific lists and that sort of thing. So like the way you counter this stuff, honestly, it's like you got to put more work into your technology usage. If you try to go like engage on the internet in a low level of consciousness, it will stimulate you, but it will not be good for you. And so it's like the internet's amazing. It's got incredible stuff on it, incredible opportunity on it, incredible entertainment on it. Just so much sweet stuff exists on the internet, but you have to go at it intentionally. You have to make sure that you are only following the people that you really like, that really create content that is valuable to you, that actually makes your life better. Otherwise, you're going to end up zombie scrolling and caught in feedback loops. Like, that's what like Twitter is in a lot of cases, like the political Twitter especially. It's just people like jerking off to like rage porn. It's just like, oh, this person said, AOC said what? And it's just like going like that, and you can get trapped in these spirals, man. So obviously this is like the worst case scenario where they got caught in a hardcore doomer pro-suicide sort of echo chamber, and they're dead now. So I hope none of you are in that scenario. If so, stop looking at that stuff, okay? It is not useful. This is where I think like the angry incel gets created, is he just gets this feedback loop of like anger and resentment and just like all these people that validate his shitty worldview. And he's just like, yeah, the world is shitty. Screw it. I'm going to go shoot this place up. And it's just, it's freaking horrible. So it's like you have to engage consciously with the world. There's a lot of good stuff out there. Just go and find that and engage with that. Yeah, it takes a little effort. It takes a little self-discipline to avoid this kind of thing. I wish, social media platforms didn't make it so that the default was for you to do the thing that was ultimately not going to serve you, which is zombie scroll and on dumb shit. But, if you want to engage online, well then do it intentionally, make your own feeds, follow the people that really serve you, and just be honest with yourself when you find yourself like watching stuff that's dumb and not serving you.
Speaking of social media, a lot of people are trying to get away from using it entirely. We talked about the dumb phone epidemic that's hit the self-development side of YouTube. Here's Chris Williamson on why he uses 3 phones personally.
3 phones. One that's got all of my contact stuff on, that's got my emails, my WhatsApp, my texts. I have another one which is social media. Taking social media off your main phone is great. Don't sell the last phone. It's only worth 200 quid. It doesn't matter. Just keep that. Take social media off the main one. And then it means that you check it when it's Wi-Fi only, because you've only got one SIM card. So you can't take it out of the house with you. Maybe you spend time watching YouTube or texting or WhatsApping, but you're not falling down the TikTok, Instagram rabbit hole. And then I have a third phone, which is the personal development phone. So that's just meditation time, a breath work, like other bits and pieces that I would use. Sleep with your phone outside of your bedroom. Massive life hack. Probably the longest lever that you can have. You're never going to roll over in the middle of the night and check it. You're not going to watch it before you go to bed. You're not going to use it first thing in the morning. Just put it in the kitchen. Put the charger. Take the charger right now and put it in the kitchen or somewhere else.
That's one thing that I'm not doing and I need to do. And I think it's the reason why my sleep is so weird.
Change everything. I have 3 phones. One that...
Yeah, there's definite value in that. For some people, like, well, I can't have 3 phones. It's like, okay, maybe not, but you can work toward it. Like you're going to upgrade at some point, just maybe save one, and then you can start separating these things. Like for me personally, probably what I'm going to do next is, I think I might even still have one of my old phones that might work for this, but it's pretty slow and clunky. The main reason I like having my phone next to my bed is being able to take notes, because a lot of times, I'm like thinking about content, like creation stuff all day. And, then I have an idea and I want to write it down. And so I usually use my phone to do that. So that's why I keep it by my bed. But, it still gets me. Every once in a while, I'll wake up and I'll be like, let's just do a little quick peek and see what's happening in the world before I get out of bed. And then guaranteed my day, just it's starting off on the back foot. It's definitely not helping me. And then I have to luckily I have a strong kind of usually a strong startup routine to get myself into the day and everything like that. But when I don't follow my routine, when I have a less than optimal day, it almost always starts with some cell phone usage in the morning. So yeah, I can second that hack. But I mean, really, I think the thing that's even more powerful than 3 phones is having some self-discipline, right? If you can internalize these habits rather than just externalizing them, I think that will pay more and more dividends over the years. It's if you really want to perform your best, you're going to have to find some way to healthily manage your social media usage and that kind of thing. And there's 2 ways to do it. Either you can build the habit of these external barriers, like what Chris is talking about here. It's you got 3 phones, you use, internet blockers during your work hours and all this kind of stuff. And basically you build the habit of controlling your environment so you can't make bad decisions. Or you can build the internal habit of just not making those bad decisions. And this takes a little bit of work. It takes a little bit of effort, but you can do it. And it's not really that hard. It takes a little bit of time, but you really need a journaling practice, because that's the way I teach it. It's you want to use the Metascript method. Basically, it's you pick a habit and you're writing about it each day. You're pre-programming your mind for here's what I'm going to do in this kind of situation. And you focus on making one major shift at a time. Maybe it's something all right, I'm going to stop scrolling my phone in down moments, and instead I'm going to, listen to an audiobook or read something on the Kindle app. Okay. Something like that. Or you'll listen to an audiobook or whatever it is that you want to do. Something more useful to you. For me, it's something that would help me is if I just was clearing email in my down moments. But whatever it is, you pick one thing you want to change and then you write about it every single day. You can take like literally like 1 minute to like 5 minutes of just being like, okay, so remember, here's what we're going to do today and here's why we are doing it. And it's going to make us feel good. And so when we get this craving, here's the exact motion that we're going to take, and you pre-program that into your brain, and you do this repeatedly. And guess what? After like a week or two, you're pretty much going to be doing that most of the time. And if it's a more serious habit, like, this is the same technique I use for helping guys quit porn, it's going to take a bit longer because there's usually some deeper stuff that you got to work through. But that's generally, I think, the best strategy, because technology is going to continue to expand and evolve. It's going to become more and more integrated in our life. And the ability to create these sort of separations, I think my hope is that it also becomes easier. Like eventually we're all going to have our own little AI companion that controls all our shit for us. We can just be like, hey, don't let me do this. Don't let me look at Twitter before 5 p.m. Okay. And our AI will be like, okay, that sounds good. I won't let you do that. And then hopefully that's the way they make it. But I think they're probably not going to do that. I think it's very possible that they're going to try and hide those things and make them high friction sorts of things to enact. And yeah, at that point, you're going to really want that internal locus of control to be built up strong.
I was considering getting a cheap smartphone to have as my real phone, and then, keep my current phone as kind of like the posting on social media phone. You know what I mean? Yeah. I was really thinking about that, and I went, it would be better if I just know how to not use it unless I really need to post something.
Yeah. But that takes attention, and that takes work, and people, they don't want to put that energy into these things. But it's these high leverage habits that are like right at the core of your personal operating system that really are the most important. They're worth the time and attention to do it, especially in the areas where you feel like they are, getting in the way. If it's something that doesn't really impact you that much, then yeah, maybe just keeping your phone outside of your bedroom, that's good enough. But, you have to keep the habit going, right? Yeah. You have to make sure that you are not, it's the weekend, I'll just bring it in tonight, or and then it's like, I've seen so many guys like that where it's like they let the exception in and the whole thing snowballs, and I guess that can happen for anything, but consistency is king, right? So I think the biggest thing here for making this kind of shift is like getting serious and focused about what the heck it is you want to accomplish, really breaking down the changes that you want to see in your life and not doing them all at once, just doing them in a laser focused manner. And that's hard to do, but that's the best way. And there is no shortcuts in life. There is only real work. And so when you accept that, you realize it's not actually harder to do it this way. It's just the only way. It's just the way. The way is the way of legitimate work and sacrifice. And if you do that right, well, then there's still plenty of space and time for play and fun and pleasure. But you just gotta, I think sometimes we get lazy today in the modern world. Our threshold for what's considered too hard is set way too low. It's like, what? I gotta journal about this for a few days. Give me the 1 second hack, man.
I just wanted to watch a YouTube video and be fixed magically.
Right. But the problem is like this low friction sort of stuff is it doesn't actually factor into your brain, right? Your brain doesn't like respond to it. Where like for example, if you really want to sell yourself on something, okay, don't just be like, oh yeah, I should probably reduce my technology usage. If you just have that thought one time because you watch an Instagram reel about it, the chances that you really act on it are very low. You have to figure out, how can you invest more energy? How can you make your brain swallow this idea on a deeper level? So for example, if like the computer usage, internet usage is your issue, maybe you read a book, right? That's what I use books for these days. Like even self-development books. A lot of times it's like, I know all the stuff that's in there. You can get the SparkNote version, in a quick YouTube video, more or less. But the value of sitting down and reading a book a lot of times is selling yourself on a concept. It's like if you read Cal Newport's Digital Minimalism, you're going to get the same ideas that a 30-second Instagram reel can give you, but it's going to be installed so much more deeply because you sat down and you took the time to actually absorb it on a more holistic level. And so figuring out how to make things less, make things higher effort can actually be very beneficial for creating lasting changes.
Makes sense. They say that about with marketing too, is generally speaking, if you have a lead magnet or something, the people who download that are less likely to take action on the information discussed than if they join a mastermind group that costs, thousands of dollars. Well, now they've got skin in the game, so they're going to actually do something to make the change, even though the information discussed is literally the same. There's nothing different.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot with like the porn recovery content that we do, because we're going to be moving on to starting to cover a lot more high performance stuff and not spending so much effort, or not having quitting porn be the only thing that I'm really kind of offering and selling. And then the question is like, well, we could even like eventually make all our porn quitting stuff free. And it's like, well, I would like to make a lot of it more available. But the thing is, I feel like there always needs to be an option for people to actually buy into something. Because if someone has a serious problem, they just know if it's completely free, they're not going to do it. It's like you need to figure out how you can get your skin in the game, how you can actually get yourself to invest. And, for most of us, that doesn't really, like, we're not really serious until we put some money on the line. So, you got to make sure that you're paying attention to that. And then on that note, we are actually launching our Reforge Man Gold program right now, which is our higher, investment program for guys who are serious about quitting porn. So make sure that you are on the mailing list. You can check the link below, and you can get that if you're interested. If you're like super serious about quitting porn, well, this is hands down the best way to do it. So make sure you check that out if you're someone who wants to finally put your porn use in your past.
Awesome. All right, the next thing I wanted to show you here is kind of along similar lines than the last one, and it's from Brett Cooper here, because she's got some interesting stats about how Gen Z in general might be one reason why smartphone sales are down overall. Let's check it out.
I'm pretty sure that this chick is just Ben Shapiro with makeup on.
You never know. They might be running short on talent over there.
Flip phones without internet access are on the rise in the U.S. as Gen Z looks to limit screen time per CNBC.
She looks so much like
him. Does Gen Z suddenly get it?
Am I finally getting through?
This could have positive effects everywhere, from getting off of TikTok and changing our voting habits to becoming mentally well. I don't know. The comments were fantastic. Somebody said Gen Z can't afford the new iPhone 22 with an unlimited data plan. Have you seen the new Chipotle prices? And then this TikTok from a college student from a while ago has over 15 million views. So we're going to watch this. This is about her flip phone.
Why my friends and I only take our flip phones out. We don't take our regular phones out anymore, because I was like the paparazzi, because we realized that every single problem that we have on a night out, everything that leads to us crying, everything that leads to us having a bad hookup, everything that leads to us having a bad time stems from our phone while we're out.
First of all, just to address the elephant in the room, I think self-awareness and self-control could also help this girl fix her life and the decisions that she's making on a night out. I don't think it's the phone.
I'm just kind of curious, how does that work with the phone? Do you know, like, where? Let me see if she
phone's problem. I think that she just is in a good place mentally and doesn't have those problems. But anyway, I'm glad she is at least finding something that works and that she is
yeah. So like, how does the phone? I'm not saying she's wrong, but like, what is it? Is it like, oh, you see like oh, my ex just, they posted a picture of them with someone else? Is it like, oh, I'm on Tinder and so I got a drunken message and so now I'm going to go hook up with that person? Is that kind of like what they're saying, or is it
probably DMs on social media?
DMs, yeah, probably. I don't know. I'm just not cool enough anymore to know how these guys work.
I know, I'm right there with you.
But yeah, I think that Gen Z, they're gonna figure their way around this, because they're not all stupid. There's plenty of stupid ones, but there's plenty of stupid kids in every generation. That's just the majority of kids always. That's just the way it works, because their brains are partially formed and they have few life experiences. But just because of that doesn't mean that they are inherently like less intelligent. So they're going to figure out like, hey, we've got these problems, and these problems all kind of come from this little magic device that sits in all of our pockets that's controlled by these morally ambiguous entities that make lots of money off of manipulating our attention. And so, good on her and her friend group. That's honestly, you see a group of girls, you're out at the bars or whatever, you see a group of girls and they're all on their flip phones. I'd at least strike up the conversation with them, and over the people who are sitting there taking selfies, like, and just like that sort of shit. So I don't know, maybe that'll be a new kind of calling card for the high quality person of the new generation. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be a whole nother genre within the trad wife movement. It'll be home phones only. No cell phones.
Yeah.
Oh,
for sure. Eventually, we're gonna see like a return. Like eventually, it's gonna be trendy to be Amish. I can't wait for it.
I have a buddy who doesn't have a phone at all, or he has a cell phone, but it stays off, and he never takes it with him anywhere. And he came to the airport, and he needed to get home, and he realized I don't have any of my roommates' phone numbers. So I don't know how he got home, but he managed to get home somehow. So you can make it work with no cell phone at all. You can make things. I think he called a taxi. I think he used the airport's phone to call a taxi. It ended up costing him $200. So
yeah, because you got the last taxi in like the whole world that just like only caters to like 70-year-old boomers who don't have smartphones.
Yeah, and they just prowl around the airport apparently. Anyways, this next one is a good one. It's a question from a club member, and this guy's asked, I've been trying to take my sexual energy and redirect it towards my goals and responsibilities. However, it seems no matter how much I tax my body and mind, whether at home, the gym, or at work, I can't seem to lower my sexual energy. I feel like I'm a wolf, always hungry and looking for food. So we've kind of touched on this concept of sexual transmutation, but you've never really dived into the specifics in a podcast. So I was wondering if you'd be willing to do that for us today.
Sure. So there's two different things you got to consider here. One is the actual act of sexual transmutation, and then what the misconception people have about their own sexual energy. And that's where I think our friend here is getting mixed up. But when it comes to actual sexual transmutation, it's pretty straightforward. It's like, okay, if you don't have a sexual outlet and you keep that sexual charge inside of you, naturally you can convert that into status-seeking behavior by like working hard, training hard, that sort of thing. Literally, men are designed in particular to do this. I would say women probably can too, but I know for men, this is like, you just think about it. Think about our hunter-gatherer ancestors, okay? You're a young, horny lad, and you don't have a mate yet, okay? Well, how do you get a mate? Well, you raise your standing in your tribe. You become a man of value. You become productive. You go out there and, kill a mammoth or something like that. Whatever it is that increases your value in that society. You have to become an upstanding man that the other people in the tribe can rely upon to do the important duties that men are required to do. Okay. So it's like your horniness is naturally transmuted into this status acquisition sort of thing. And I would say you don't even need to try to do that. You just need to not blow your sexual energy out so that you have that tension inside of you, and then go do some shit. Okay. And it sounds like our friend is doing that. He's training hard, he's working, and that sort of thing. Now, the reason why it's not seeming to make a dent in his scenario here is because I think a lot of guys think what they're dealing with is a high sexual charge, when in reality, that's not what they're dealing with. So let me break this down for you, all right? When you grow up, jerking off to porn, masturbating, that sort of thing, it can, especially with the usage of internet porn, it can turn your sexual organ into an instant feel-good button, all right? And so anytime you feel any negative emotion, not just feeling like naturally, authentically horny or sexually aroused or desirous of sexual activity, okay? And you don't need to just feel that. You could feel lonely. You could feel stressed. You could feel bored. All like non-sexual things. You can treat them with the same instant feel-good button, which is porn and masturbation, okay? And so when you do that repeatedly, what ends up happening is that guys actually lose an awareness of what the underlying emotion is. So, for example, a lot of guys have feelings of inadequacy and insecurity. They're not the man they want to be. They're not making the money they want to make. They don't have the kind of relationships that they want to have. They don't have the physical fitness that they want to have, etc. It could be all sorts of things, but basically they feel like they're lacking and they don't feel good. And so they use porn to create this simulation of, I'm this big alpha stud and I'm banging all these internet women, when in reality you're not, right? But you're tricking your brain into thinking that you are, at least in the moment. And so you keep doing that, and your brain, instead of saying, hey, we're stressed, or hey, we're worried, or hey, we're lonely, instead it just says, give me my medicine. And you experience that as a craving for porn or a craving for masturbation. Now, that's not you being authentically horny at that point. That's your brain just asking for its fix to relieve whatever the deeper underlying emotional issue is. And so a lot of guys, when they come to work with me, they're like, oh man, my sex drive is just so freaking crazy. And it's not. They don't have a crazy sex drive. The problem is that they've turned all their non-sexual issues into sexual ones. And so they think they're horny all the time, when in reality, they just have a bunch of unprocessed negative emotion. Okay? And that's what I think is probably happening here with our friend. And so it's like, what you got to do is you got to learn how to say, okay, if I don't use porn right now, if I don't do this thing, if I don't reach for a sexual distraction, what kind of emotion comes up inside of me? What kind of feelings come up? Is it like intense frustration? Well, what are you frustrated with? Is it sadness? Is it fear about something? Is it anxiety about something? Okay. Is it maybe painful memories? Is it some kind of trauma from your past? You have to almost you got to push past that initial urge, and then you got to kind of dive into, well, what comes up next? Okay. And if anything other than just raw, natural physical sexual energy comes up, then you're using porn to cope. You're using sexual stimulation to cover up some deeper issue. And if you want to solve the problem, you got to address that thing. It's like, oh, your finances are a wreck. Well, go address your damn finances, right? Oh, your, relationship with your family is horrible, and, or you got a history of abuse or whatever. It's like, get your ass in therapy. Okay. Do what you need to do to solve the deeper emotion. And if you do that, you'll realize, oh, wow, actually I solved these deeper issues over here and I'm not so horny anymore. It's like, no, you're not. It's not that you're less horny. It's just that your brain doesn't need the distraction anymore. And so you're decoupling this sexual stimulation, this is sexual escape, from your other emotions. And this can be kind of challenging because it's not necessarily comfortable to feel these deeper emotions. It's not necessarily comfortable to delve into your real shit. But, if you want a real solution, this is how you do it.
Makes sense. All right. The next thing I wanted to show you today is actually, it's not a clip at all. I was listening to this podcast and this John Maxwell quote came up, and it goes like this: you can't overestimate the unimportance of practically everything. I don't know. I just love that. But it kind of brings up a question, which is, well, how do you determine what is a distraction and what is not? I think a lot of guys, myself included, run into that where it's like, okay, well, what am I supposed to be going Way of the Giant Pumpkin on exactly?
Right. And go ahead and tell them what the Way of the Giant Pumpkin is.
Yeah, so we mentioned it before, but in case you missed that last podcast, whenever it was when we did that, Way of the Giant Pumpkin is simply cutting all the pumpkins off of the vine that you don't want to grow, so all the nutrients can grow the one pumpkin much bigger than all the rest ever would be if they were on the vine as well. So that's right. How it gets massive.
The example that someone was using, it was it Dave Lorette?
Devin.
Is it Dave Lorette? Devin Lorette. I always forget his name. Devin Lorette. He's like a professional arm wrestler. And typically he trained both arms, because that's just usually what you do. You train both arms. Yeah. He's like, screw it. I'm just going to train my wrestling arm. And he called it the Way of the Giant Pumpkin, and his forearm just freaking blew up. And you got to learn how to do that in the right way in your life, right? You got to cut out all the unessential. And the hard thing I think that guys try to do is it's really, they don't build the vision right. They don't actually pick where they're trying to go. And because of that, they have no way to make their discernment, and they have no way to create endpoint that tells them, hey, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One of the big ones is that a lot of guys, they have like this feeling of like status insecurity. They feel like they're not good enough. And if they let anything go down or just simply go unaddressed, then they're not okay. It's like if they decide to focus on their business while not ultra maxing out their training, they feel like, well, shit, I got to do both at the same time. I can't just do one. And so they feel not good enough. And so you have to connect to your dignity. You have to realize that, whether, no matter how much money you get, no matter how in shape you are, no matter how good your sex life is, whatever, or how bad any of those things are, you're still you. You're not any better or any worse. You're not worth any more as a person. You don't become more lovable or anything like that. At least it shouldn't be in your own mind, right? And if you can decouple your sense of worth from your external status markers, well, that gives you a tremendous amount of freedom. That allows you to move into a state of true expression. Most guys, they're struggling because they're trying to possess something. They're grasping at all of these goals at once, and because of that, they don't ever end up grabbing any of them because they end up dropping everything. Right? This is the guy who's like, all right, I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to build my business. I'm going to start dating. I'm going to start meditating. I'm going to take an ice bath every day. I'm going to, practice my Wim Hof breathing. I'm going to do blah, 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 blah. They try and do it all at once. And then they, the next day it's like, screw it. I can't do it. And they just spend their day escaping in some form or another. And so it's like when you realize none of that stuff's going to make me worth anymore. I'm actually good right now as I am. And at that point, it becomes an act of play. It becomes like, well, what game do I want to play right now? What game do I want to get good at right now? And you can do it. You can say, all right, I'm going to focus on this thing. And you know what? This thing over here is important, but I'm going to get to that later. And so when you can do that, then you can start narrowing down your vision into something that is really manageable and doable. And that's what you need. Like a lot of guys, when they start thinking about their vision, it's like this muddled thing of like a mixture of like, childlike, like wish list thinking, where it's just like, oh, I want a yacht and a Rolex and a supermodel wife and that sort of thing. But then they've got a whole list of all the obligations that they feel like they have to have. It's like, oh, well, I need the career that makes mom happy. And I should also probably, make sure that my, 401k is taken care of and blah, blah, blah. And they just have like all these shoulds. So it's like superficial wishes and then like externally imposed shoulds. And it's like, you're not going to create a good vision out of any of that. What you need to do is you need to find that vision of the thing that you're certain that you want with all of your being. Okay. And this has to be something that is balanced both on the status pursuit side and on the lifestyle enjoyment side. So it's like something that you like, for example, for me, my current vision is I want to be solving really hard problems in the area of personal development. I want to be creating content on it, and doing it in a beautiful place. That's what I want to do. I just want to solve hard problems in beautiful places. Create and do that. Right. That's the thing. That's my current vision. And so everything that serves that goal, it goes in. Everything that doesn't goes away from it. And the thing about that was important for me to come to this conclusion is that I've hit all my other previous goals. And the problem was I would often do them in a lopsided fashion. I would do them either favoring pleasure too much. It's like, oh, I want to work 3 hours a day and then be able to just play video games. Well, I succeeded in that. Guess what? It didn't make me happy because it didn't actually bring the status I was looking for. It brought the pleasure, but the status wasn't there to balance it out. And then other times like, well, I want to become a complete workaholic. I just want to be at rest in motion and only like be productive. And I learned how to do that too. But guess what? That also sucked. It was also like ultimately not very satisfying. And so, everyone's got different tolerances for work and that sort of thing and different needs for pleasure and whatnot. But what you're looking for is that vision of something that you're certain you want. And this could be a huge vision of like, I want to be the top of this field. Or it could be something as simple as I want to have like my same job and same career, but I want to be working less hours and being more healthy. I want to weigh 20 pounds less. Okay. So many guys, they're trying to get into this like abstract realm of finding like, here's my heaven on earth. Okay. Don't worry about that. What's like the thing right now that you're 100% certain that you can go all in on achieving, not just from like the effort side, but also on the journey side. It's a journey that you want to go on to a destination you want to arrive at. And it might be a small thing, you know, it really might be a small shift right now. It might just be something like, well, I want to be doing what I'm currently doing, just with less video games and porn and more socializing with friends. It might be something very simple like that. But guess what? As you reach that point, that's then going to unlock your brain. You're going to have an experience living there, and you're going to be able to set the next vision, right? And once you have that vision, that core vision, then it's just a matter of planning and execution, right? And so that's a lot of the stuff that I'll be getting into when I start moving more into the high performance stuff and like really laying out the system for exactly how I'd recommend doing it. But you know, this is something that you can all figure out, at least on a rudimentary level, or even on an extreme level. This is stuff that's been written about for ages. It's just a matter of being humble enough, and by humble I mean knowing your own worth without having all this external validation, humble enough to focus. And if you can do that, and you can focus on something that you're certain you want with all parts of your being, then you're going to be able to start cutting out all the stuff that doesn't serve that vision. And it's going to feel weird at first. You're going to feel like, oh, well, I don't want to cut this thing out. Well, maybe you don't have to, but maybe you need to modify it, right? Because we want to make sure it's a journey that you are walking. And so it's weird because it's like, on one level, you need to give yourself permission to enjoy the journey and do the things that you just like. But at the same time, you can't be all that. And it's what I'm talking about is balance here, but it's a lot harder to create balance than you think. It takes a lot more thinking than you think, because so many of us were just caught in this pendulum swing between shoulds and superficial indulgences. And it's like, you really got to smash them both together and be like, okay, what's the path that I'm willing to walk that takes me someplace I truly want? So, all right, I'm repeating myself now. So let's move on.
Well, the last thing I wanted to show you today was from the, I believe it's, I forget the name of the podcast, but anyway, this Instagram account reposted this clip of a girl talking about what she does when she notices her boyfriend or whoever liking photos of other scantily clad women on Instagram.
Yeah, which is ironic because this is a scantily clad woman who posts scantily clad pictures of herself. But anyway, let's see. Oh.
I'm mad when y'all's seriously be getting mad when y'all's man likes a naked photo of a girl on like the internet. Like, oh my god, it's really not that big. I'm playing. So what you're gonna do is you're not gonna get mad. You're actually gonna be petty, like real petty, and you're just gonna post the same photo but of you, the same amount of clothes on. And when he says something, be like, oh well, I thought you liked that because you were liking it on Instagram, so I thought you liked that. Watch how his actions start to change. Yep.
Yeah, she must have, her boyfriend must do a lot of that then. And, you know, I'm not trying to bash her so much. It's just the behavior in general of putting out highly sexualized content online obviously is not something I agree with, and I don't think it's good for anyone involved, you know, the girl doing it or the guys consuming it. But I think the more interesting topic of conversation here is the weirdness of sexual activity online today. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced something like this where you see like a friend or a family member who is quote unquote being horny on main. Have you ever heard of that? It's like a meme for like liking sexual pictures or something like that, or retweeting sexual stuff like on your normal account that's like, you know, with all your friends and family and that kind of thing.
Account. I see what it is.
Yes, your main account. And so it's like what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to have some burner account, and that's where you do all your horny shit on. But how about you just don't do that, period? How about like you stop like creating a like curated and documented trail of your lustful behavior? You know, how about you just stop engaging in that lustful behavior? It's the world today is so strange. Like, I remember I've seen like some family members just like, you you know, like on Twitter, you can see people who like things, and it's like, damn, I don't think you wanted that to show up on your profile. Or like people on Facebook who are old and don't know what they're doing. It's like, oh, come on, man. Oh, boomer. I'm sorry. It's like the thing is, the internet doesn't forget.
It doesn't.
And it's only gonna get more and more, get a more and more powerful memory as time goes on. And I don't know. I think that, like, is anyone like just the conspiratorial part of me would have a huge problem with this, of like, well, what if like people just like access this? Like, what if they wanted to just like blackmail you? It's like, if someone can say, hey, I'm going to show your wife all the shit you've liked on Twitter or Instagram, okay, and that makes you break out into a cold sweat, you're not living well, all right? You're just not. You're not behaving well, okay? So, like, I think the key is, like, don't treat the internet like it's this magical fairy tale place that has no connection to reality. Yes, I know porn trains you to think that the internet is that thing, but it's actually not. The internet is only populated by real people, and I guess, you know, AI robots, but, you know, mostly real people, okay? And so behave on the internet in the way you would behave in real life, and that would solve a lot of the problems that the internet causes, really, most of them, all right? If you just interact with people online in the way that you would interact with them in person, you're probably not going to get into like any sort of crazy battles with trolls. It's just not going to happen. And yes, other people won't abide by this rule, but if you abide by this rule, well, then you are going to be happier. Like, you know, this is something that I had to learn when I was a younger content creator, because, you know, you get troll comments, you get like real jerks and stuff saying like unnecessarily nasty things to you. And, you know, I used to get like real upset. I used to engage with them and all that kind of thing. And in reality, it's like, I think about it, it's like, all right, if I was walking down the street and some crazy person like yells some gibberish at me, or a crazy person like, you know, insults me, it's like, what am I going to do? Am I actually going to fight them in real life? It's like, well, only if they were physically attacking me or putting my family in danger. Otherwise, it's just like, it's not worth the court fees. It's not worth like potentially getting stabbed or, you know, like getting jumped by multiple people or whatever. It's just like, I'm just going to basically be like, okay, and then just move on. That's it. That's all you can do. And, you know, same thing with like, like sexual activity. All right. You see a beautiful woman walking down the street. Do you go up and be like, hey, I love the way your butt looks right now? It's like, hopefully not. Okay. Hopefully that's not the way you behave. Okay. Well, you shouldn't be liking a picture of a woman's butt online, because that's basically the same thing. All right. It's low brow, low class, low dignity behavior. And it's just got to be dropped, right? And if you do this and you make this shift, it's like, all right, the internet, I'm going to be a real person on the internet. That's going to solve most of your problems. So that's my rule.
I like it. It works. Guys, go ahead and check out the training in the description. Go ahead and send in your application for the Reforge Man Gold program. And is there anything else that we need to talk about today, Mark?
I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. Reforge Man Gold's going to be, when is this podcast going to be out?
No idea.
It should be out next week, right? It should hopefully be out earlier next week. And we will be closing enrollment, I believe, on Friday. So if you want in that program, make sure you check it out and sign up, because we tend to sell out, or at least we historically have. And I would love to sell out again. So get your butt in there. Let's get you clean from porn. Let's get you rocking and rolling on living your best life. Ooh, yup, everybody. Have a good one. See you in the next one.